Hello everyone, this is your professor once again, Dean Danny Araneta Cabulay for the course Business Research. So earlier we talked about the first part of chapter 1, so how to formulate statement of the problem and how to write your integrated review of related literature and the theoretical and conceptual frameworks. Now, let's talk about the remainder of chapter 1. Let's try to complete chapter 1. So we will talk about the hypothesis, significance of the study, scope, delimitations and limitations, and definition of terms and acronyms. Let's start with hypothesis. What do we mean by hypothesis? The research hypothesis is an intelligent assumption made by the researcher leading to the answer to the research problem. It is typically recommended to use what you call the null hypothesis. As the name implies, it is always stated in the negative. The opposite of null hypothesis is alternative hypothesis, which is stated in the affirmative. Okay? Now, look at slide number 4. What you see here is a gadget that looks like a pendant, but it's actually a gadget. So if you launch this product in the market, you know, how much is the market willing to pay for it? That's the problem. The SOP, what selling price are the customers willing to pay for the new product to be launched by the company? The null hypothesis, therefore, will be stated the average unit selling price customers are willing to pay for the new product is less than or equal to 545 pesos. So you see the symbol for null hypothesis, mean score, and then less than or equal to 545. Now, the alternative hypothesis is obviously stated in the opposite direction. The average unit selling price customers are willing to pay for the new product is greater than 545. Now, I'd like to, you to focus on slide number 6. So you see a gentleman who's trying to conduct inventory in a warehouse. So, what would be the SOP? Is there a significant correlation between the coverage of inventory sampling and the probability of detection of irregularities? The null hypothesis will be stated this way. There is no significant correlation between coverage of inventory sampling and probability of detection of irregularities. So hence the symbol null hypothesis is R. R is the symbol for Pearson-R correlation coefficient. So that is the data analytical tool that you will use. Okay, so it's a correlation coefficient. Okay, is less than or equal to 0.70. 7.0 is the threshold. Anything above 7.0 is going to indicate a high correlation. So that's the alternative hypothesis. There is a significant correlation between the coverage of inventory sampling and the probability of detection of irregularities. Finally, if you look at slide number 8, you will see a very prominent BPO company. So here is the SOP. What is the level of liquidity of the BPO firms in the Philippines? And we know that when you measure liquidity, as we learned from financial management, the previous subject that I taught, there are two types of liquidity. You have your current ratio and your acid test ratio, or what you call the quick ratio. So let's look at quick ratios. So the null hypothesis, the mean monthly quick ratios of selected firms in the BPO industry is less or equal to 12. So hence the symbol null hypothesis, and mean score of the first company, then the mean score of the second company, third, and so forth is less than or equal to 12. Okay? The alternative hypothesis is the opposite. That means the mean score of those companies that we're studying would be greater than 12. Now, let's talk about significance of the study. The significance of a specific research project refers to the benefits accruing to various stakeholders and its potential contribution to the researcher's work, profession, or business, a particular unit in the organization, the industry, to government agencies, to the country, and perhaps to the region or the world. So if you look at, you know, slide number 12, you probably see here a cook, no, who is preparing a lot of meals. So this looks like a large kitchen in a cruise ship, okay? So examples of significance of the study. So the researcher chose this topic because of the vast and growing markets in the various sectors in the global maritime industry. It also directly links the maritime industry to other allied complementing industries like agriculture, manufacturing, retailing, logistics. Thus, this study is significant to the following stakeholders. So this is the actual excerpt from a research of one of my students who is a maritime student in the graduate school. So he is taking up master's in maritime studies. So this is the excerpt from that research. So he believes that his study is valuable to the researcher, valuable to purchasing managers, ship suppliers, shipping companies, government, the academe, and the country, and also to Asia-Pacific maritime hubs. Now, how do you write significant? Well, for example, let's look now at scope, delimitations, and limitations. What is the difference among the three? So when we talk about scope, it refers to the general coverage of the study, defining clearly the parameters for inclusion and consideration. Meanwhile, when we talk about delimitation, this refers to the physical, economic, legal, and technical limitations of the study. What is not included in the study? So clearly, when you talk about scope, what is included in the study? Delimitation, what is excluded in the study? Okay? So what about in your own topic? What is included in your topic, in your study, and what is excluded? Now, when you talk about limitations, basically answers the question, why is the research not being pursued on a bigger scale, wider scope, more extensive coverage, or include more relevant topics? Hence, this describes the researcher's challenges or impediments. So this could be budgetary constraint, physical constraint, health constraint, time constraint, accessibility constraint, network constraint, and so on and so forth. Okay? Now, the last part, let's talk about definition of terms and acronyms. This particular section is a straightforward enumeration of technical terminologies or jargon and acronyms used in the entire study. This will orient readers of the research report on jargon and unfamiliar words and phrases which may be unique to an industry or profession. Without these sections, readers of a research report may easily get lost, confused, or disinterested because the terms used are unfamiliar and not defined or clarified from the very beginning. Therefore, it is good to place this section in the first chapter of the report or paper. The terms and acronyms are presented in alphabetical order. It may include industry or professional jargon, names of organizations or agencies, foreign words, and even common words and phrases but frequently mentioned in the research paper. Never assume that readers already know them. This will help readers understand and appreciate better the flow of discussion of the various topics in the research. There are two types of definitions, by the way. There's the lexical definition, the one that you probably get from encyclopedia, from the dictionary, but please do not cite any other source, no? Like Wikipedia. Encyclopedia is okay, Webster Dictionary or Thesaurus is okay, but Wikipedia is not acceptable. And the second type of definition would be operational definition or the functional definition. That is the more preferred definition that we want, okay? So I'll give an example. Study on the market feasibility and design concept of a proposed El Nido hotel. We use several acronyms, so that's an example of how we did it, no? So for project task number 4, I want you to complete chapter 1. the remainder of your chapter 1, the hypothesis, significance of the study, scope, delimitations and limitations, and the definition of terms and jargon. So try to submit this by July 6. Okay, so that's what? Wednesday, 9 p.m. Okay, so another goodbye word. In Germany, we say goodbye as Auf Wiedersehen. Auf Wiedersehen. May your week be filled with positive energy. Auf Wiedersehen. Bye.